So in this video, I'm just going to go through changing a heated hand grip. Not that I need to change it, but I need to take it off to change my switch gear. So it'd be the same thing if I did have to change my heated hand grip. They do wear out, so if you're going to keep your bike for a long time, some people do. I've seen it on the forums, people changing the hand grip. This is what you need to go through with the Gen 3, but I suspect the Gen 2 and the Gen 1 are going to be fairly similar in the connections underneath the tank anyway. And this is how you have to change a left-hand switch cube. I bet the right's fairly similar, but at the end of the day, you've got to take the heated hand grip off to get the switch cube off. So that's what I'm going to go through in this video, sort of 2 for 1. The reason I need to do this is because I've broken this switch gear. Now that's self-inflicted, it's not a Triumph problem. What is a ridiculous Triumph thing is I'm taking the tank off because I need to change this switch gear, because I can't get the heated grip off. There's a connector in here, but there's not enough slack to pull the cable out to get to the connector to disconnect it. So I have to take the fuel tank off just to get to a connector on this cable. Okay, there's 2 short steps I didn't show in this. First off, you just need to remove these 2 little torque screws, and they hold on the heated grips button. There's no wiring connected in that, it's just a mechanical device. So that comes off real easy. And then underneath that, you get access to the 2 screws that actually hold the heated grip onto the handlebar. And they're just regular screws and they come right off. Dead easy. Oh, and there's also this piece here which covers up this area here. That was fairly easy to get off. It just gives you easier access to the cabling going down here and, you know, pulling and shoving and stuff like that. So yeah, it's worth taking that off while you're doing it. Okay, the base of this is hooked in there. So somehow this has got to unhook at the base and slide back. I have to have a think about what's holding all that on. This sensor here, if you take it off by this screw here, then you can leave all the cabling in place. This electrical connection here, this electrical connection here has to come off. I think there's something to do with the reset valve, this breather, and that pipe on this reset valve. That needs to come off. Then there's 2 bolts down here. 1, 2. Then it should slide off here. So that doesn't look too hard to get the airbox off. And that's what you'd have to do, obviously, if you wanted to check the spark plugs. Easy enough. I'm going to put the screw back in the bottom of the airbox so I don't misplace it. Straightforward enough. Now, need a pair of pliers to get rid of that clamp, I think. Oh no, just did it with my finger. That came off easy enough. So I need to disconnect the hose underneath that. Okay, I'm going to have to get a screwdriver to help me with that. It's a bit tight to get my fingers in. That was just easy to prise that off. It came off fairly easily, so that's grand. These 2 bolts here, right, they look like 8mm. That's a lot of work to get to a spark plug, isn't it? I suppose it's no different for a lot of bikes, well, modern bikes anyway. Now I've got to lift it up and back, I suggest. Right, a little bit of pressure against you there, lifting that. I guess that's it, sitting on top of the throttle bodies. Get the feeling something is preventing me pulling that back. I can't see it. Ah, it's this airbox at the front. I don't know where this splits, but it's where it goes through the frame. So I'm going to push the whole thing through the frame. Yeah, there we are. One airbox off. Wow. What have we got? 3 coils. Here, here, here. On top of our spark plugs. Some sort of recirc valve stuff. My throttle bodies. I've got to be really careful not to get anything in these. And that was fairly easy. Right, I just tried to take one of the coils off. They're quite hard to get off. I've no doubt if I persevered, I could get one off. And the idea was I was going to check one of the spark plugs and just look and see how it was. Now the bike's running fine. And so I tell you what, I don't want to tempt fate. I don't want to tempt fate that I end up breaking a coil or breaking a clip or something like that. So I'm going to leave my spark plugs in place. The bike's running fine. And those plugs will get changed at its 32k service at the dealer. So I'll leave those well alone. So I've got my new air filter. I shall replace that when the time comes to it. Meanwhile, I've got to find my connection for my heated grip. Okay, from my heated grip here, through the handlebar, past the headstock, it's this cable here, and that is on that connector there. Not that one there. So I need to disconnect that and feed this cable through so I can pull this wire through here to disconnect a connector, which is somewhere in here. Right. Right, I've loosened the bracket that this all this wiring sits on, and I'm trying to split this cable here, and I just can't get the cable apart. I just can't get my fingers in there. So I'm going to try and take some of this out just to see if it will give me better access to that. Well, I really struggled to get this electrical connector apart. It's just trying to get a grip either side of it. But what I've managed to do is push it far enough forward and feed the cable through enough to get my connector out. Just enough to disconnect it. So now I can get my heated grip off and slide my left-hand switch cube off. Another couple of things I haven't mentioned at the start of the video. This is the clutch switch, so it doesn't let you start the bike unless you're holding the clutch in. It's a Triumph thing. So you just need to get underneath the clutch lever mechanism, and it's just a screw to unscrew that. Very easy. And then importantly, we've got the 2 main connectors in here. They should be cable tied on that lug there. So snip the cable tie off. Be careful not to snip your cables, obviously. Snip your cable tie off. And the 2 connectors in here, they just pull out. They're waterproof connectors and they just pull out. There's nothing latching them or anything like that. And that's a complete switch. That'll just slide off the handlebars when we get that grip off. So that switch cube, now I can get this switch cube off because I got my left hand heated grip free. So there's a switch removal tool which you need to slide in under here. Your switch, if you happen to have to replace this left hand switch gear, you can leave all this gear on, but you can see there's a little hole in the left, and that's for this removal tool to go round, go down. You can just see that little slider there. That'll be at the front of the switch cube. And so that goes down somewhere like this to release. There, I just felt it there. Okay, there's a catch there. So that's released my switch cube. So my new switch cube can go on without it. So your switch doesn't have to be apart. I mean, this was just me trying to find out what was wrong with my switch cube. And it's well, in my case, it's this broken piece here. Several lines broken here. So to get this off, you don't have to take your switch cube apart. And taking off the cover of it doesn't do much for you, apart from just letting all the switches fall out. So I have a spare plastics, I suppose, but that's for the trash. So my new complete switch cube. The one thing I will say for Triumph, the cost of the switch cube was very reasonable. I think I paid, it was either 139 or 159 euros, which when you look at some of the other manufacturers, that's very cheap. That is very cheap, especially one that does so much. And you've got all your joystick control, indicator control, all your cruise, your lighting, heated gear, flash. Now, one thing I noticed, this indicator feels a little bit more tactile than the one I was taking off for the indicators, which is great because that was one of my criticisms. I didn't think that was that tactile before, but that feels much better. So, some of these joysticks have gone on some people's bikes. So to get a whole new one of those, reasonably cheap, relatively cheap, if you buy the tool, obviously you don't have to do anything I'm doing here. Changing that, oh well actually, yeah, you do need to take your heated grip off to change that. Yeah, you do. What am I saying? You do need to do exactly what I've just done. You need to do all of this to be able to get the heated grip off, to be able to slide this off. So, look, I'm feeling much better about things now I've got to this stage. There's a very important part of this. See that there, that tab there. When all this is back on and there's a few cables entering here, that's for a cable tie, to tighten around those cables so you're not stressing these cables. I would prefer it if these had been a couple of inches longer, to be honest. That seems like a mad load of hassle. Just look, if there was another 30-40 centimeters on those cables, I wouldn't have had to do any of this. I could have just drawn that heated grip off. But anyway, bear in mind, so that's for the cable tie to hold these in place. If you ever find your bike not starting, indicators not working, the dash coming up, weird things like that, you can just push these two cables in here. They're these big ones here, coming through this wrapped tube. These two here can easily be pulled out of there. Just push them back in. Especially if you've raised your bars, because that's probably the reason why you pulled them out in the first place. I'd like to see those pushed right in, so don't force these in. If they don't feel like they're going in, just check they're going in the right way. That looks like it. Oops. Bit fiddly, but easier than doing it when they're on. See there now? They're both there now, and you want to put a cable tie around that to get them real tight, stop them getting pulled, because they are just a push fit. There's nothing that seems to clip them in.
Again, I'm going to cable tie these while they're off. So I don't want to see the cable tie at the front. So I'll have it at the bottom somehow. Nice tight fit. Lovely. They're not coming out again. That's gone in until it's stopped. Excellent. New switch gear, doesn't need orientating or anything, only goes on one way. Nice and firm. Brilliant. I can remake my heated grip connection now. To get the heated grip on, you have to pull the electrical connection out a bit of the handle to be able to get it flush with the bottom of this bar, so the cable's not sticking out the hole in the bottom of the bar. Right, and there. Now obviously they don't stay there, so I've got to see how I route these. Right, not that much cable is supposed to be sticking out, obviously. So I just have to work this carefully, getting this back on and feed this cable up. Obviously I'm not doing it quite right. It's helping pull in the cable the other side. No, not quite, not enough. Nearly there. That's got it. Lovely. Right, 2 retaining screws for the heated grip. We're laughing. One underneath, exact same. Great. Now the little switch gear around there. Right. I have screws in my mouth, so I'm talking funny. Let's see. My little push button back on. That's it. Very small torque screws. Three pairs of hands. And another one underneath. So left-hand switch gear and heated grip back together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the heated grips connector off this, because then it just gives me a little bit extra cable slack on full lock either way. So what I would say, if you're putting on very big bar risers, and you shouldn't have to in the Gen 3 Tiger, but if you were, this whole plate in here is holding on a whole bunch of connectors. This main loom here from the switch gear is one of them. It's this middle one here. So you could disconnect that from that plate and move that forward and gain another cable inch as well. So I wouldn't go any more than that on the bar risers, but if for some reason you really did, I would take the tank off and take this plate off the bottom and just get yourself some extra cable runs, extra cable length. So you can see those two connectors there and there. They're off the cable holding plate, and it just gives that cabling a little more extra room at the front to move. That's great. I can put my top plate back on now. I got plenty of slack in my cables on full lock either way, plenty of slack, so that's great. I'm delighted with that. So I just have to reassemble. Right, there's markers here where to do up the hand grip again, so that's easy. Just got to make sure you don't nip the cables up to the left of them going into the handlebar grip. And I'll put the clutch switch on. What I'll do is I'll cable tie the clutch to the hand grip, and that'll make it easier to get the clutch switch on.
Those connections in the switch cubes are actually something to try, have a look at. If you get stranded somewhere, or you find your dash isn't coming on, or the ignition's acting weirdly, or the dash is coming on but the bike's not starting, or something's not working like an indicator, check those switch cube cables, because you might have somehow or inadvertently yanked one of them, maybe broken the cable tie, something like that. And it may be just a case of pushing that switch cube connector back in, and you're back on your way.
Don't cover this shit on the bridge. You don't see that every day. We're crossing the River Tamar, leaving Cornwall. Welcome to Devon.